Welcome back to Inspired or Acquired. This is the podcast where we interview real business owners, talk real numbers, and ask them whether or not they would sell their company. So we are joined today by Brendan Dawson. He has a software business and he's based in Lakewood, Colorado. We'll hear more about that. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Clint Fiore, mergers and acquisitions specialist out of Texas. So Brendan, it's good to see you. Happy Friday. How are you?
Happy Friday. Thank you, Patrick. Good to see you again.
If people aren't familiar with you and AccidentPlan, give us just a quick overview of like what is the software and what does it do? And then we'll dive in here with Clint.
Well, AccidentPlan is part of a risk management platform for the North American trucking companies. And it answers the question, if, imagine yourself a driver at this moment, driving your big rig and minding your own business, doing your job, and wham, suddenly you get in a crash, something bad happens. It answers the question, what do I do now? Because in that moment, the driver is always, they're rattled, they're nerve-wracked, they're thinking with their primitive brain, and their cognitive thought processes go out the window. But in this litigious society, there's a lot more money, a lot higher stakes involved in a commercial auto crash than there is in a passenger vehicle crash. There's a minimum $750,000 and generally much more, exceeding 10, 20, and even $30 million. So the motor carriers need to protect themselves from loss and create defensibility in their company to the best of the ability. And AccidentPlan does that at the driver level by walking the driver through the entire process, everything they need to do at the scene, things they should not say at the scene, what they should say at the scene, a little coaching going along, and then coaches them through the gathering information process, taking pictures of the scene, making sure they're getting the insurance certificates and other information from the other parties, as well as information from law enforcement and towing companies and service providers. And then when the driver uses AccidentPlan at the scene, all the data automatically squirts back to the network so that the remaining stakeholders in the claims, risk, and safety departments can all make educated decisions based on information in real time rather than waiting for the lag time of the information to come in later and later.
Nice. I love it. And if let's say I have 50 trucks, and for the low cost of how much per month per truck, roughly?
Well, we charge by the driver because it's the driver that touches it. We never touch the truck. And it's $4.99 per driver per month.
All right. $5 a month to keep me from getting sued into oblivion or to keep my insurance rates from going up, right?
Yeah, to help protect your exposure to risk and create defensibility.
Nice.
And can it be for tractor trailers, or are we talking like local plumbing businesses driving a bunch of vans around, or who's your ideal customers here?
It's for anybody my ideal customers are, well, actually, I've got a really good foothold in certain segments of the heavy duty market, especially in petroleum haulers and private carriers. From my perspective, if it's on the road and on the clock, it's exposed. But the trouble is, people rarely think of traffic accidents. They never expect to get into one, even the commercial operators, because it's one of those things that we tend to block out of our human mind. So as to your plumbers, if they recognize the exposure, absolutely. We're small hotshot operators, renter operators, Uber drivers, they all face the same exposures.
Interesting. Cool. So how long have you been doing this?
We started building the product in late 2014. We opened our doors to the public in 2016. So I'm 9 years full in to open doors, 10 years into the business total.
Awesome. So 10 years on this journey. You also do private investigations alongside this?
I do. I've been subsidizing my revenue in private investigations for about 20 years, mostly just because I'm good at it. So people ask me to do it. And
that's around trucking accidents as well.
Didn't start out that way,
Yeah.
but once people found out I have an expertise, then that's pretty much the only calls coming in. And I don't have to do the slip and falls or the surveillances so much anymore. Yeah. But the interesting part about this is AccidentPlan is a tool for the defense of trucking. When I get called to investigate truck crashes, I'm usually called by the plaintiff attorney.
Okay.
So it gives me a lot of insight into how the plaintiffs work, what they're looking for, punitive damages.
You're creating the problem and solving the problem.
Right. And to give you a scope of the problem itself, commercial auto insurance has been in a 10-year slide of 112% loss ratios.
Ooh.
So commercial auto insurers are looking for solutions, even though their clients really are not.
So who do you sell this to when you're doing your business development work? Are you looking for fleet operators, or are you targeting drivers themselves, or how do you sell this software?
Well, I target fleet operators right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I especially am especially interested in fleet operators who belong to insurance captives. And I'm not sure if your audience is familiar with what an insurance captive is, but it's when a group of companies get together and try to manage their risk by forming their own insurance company with their own money. So they all contribute to a loss pool, so many $1 million, then they offshore that money. And if they don't tap into that loss pool, they get to start earning interest on that money. Those are the ones I'm after. I'm starting to get some good traction and foothold in a few of them. Takes a long time to change the hearts and minds, but that's where my business is driving toward creating an insurance product that combines risk mitigation with the risk transfer.
Great. So, if you don't mind, my favorite part of this is kind of like just put on my valuator hat and saying, talk to me about the numbers. I think in terms of numbers. I know Pat's big into this too, but we love to kind of play 20 questions with the business owners we have on here and get our minds around like the numbers of your business and what it might be worth and how buyers might be looking at it and that sort of thing. Is it okay if we jump into Q&A rapid fire with you?
Yeah, and don't forget to add the part about what it means to me.
Yeah.
So sure. Go ahead.
Right on. So just talk to me high level. You're 9 years in. What has the trend been like the last few years, specifically on revenue? And like, where's your annual revenue nowadays?
We're 126,000, and we're growing about. Right now, we're only growing about 4 or 5% a year.
Okay, so 126,000 in annual revenue, and is it just you working for the business, or do you have a team with you, or like what's your margins on that 126,000?
Margins right now are about 40%. About 40%. I've got a development team that I contract with. Everybody's out of house. I'm the only working member of the company.
Okay, so I had that you netted 54,000, and are you paying yourself?
Paying myself $2,000 a month, and I'm paying my sister to do the books for about $1,000 a month.
Okay, and so after your $2,000 a month that you're taking home, you're still netting out that 54?
Nope.
Or that's included in that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got about that 40% is kind of your benefit as the owner, all in. Right on.
Much, just enough to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And keep developing and and limited growth.
Could you talk to me about like the intellectual property you've developed with this? Do you have any like anything that you do that's proprietary or that you're the only one can do, or anything that makes your company more defensible?
Yeah, pretty much everything is proprietary. Everything is built by us, built here in Colorado. So we've got, remember when we've got the application itself, just the mobile application. We've done a complete integration with an existing telematics system called Geotab that is currently running more than 2 million users. We have our front page portal, which is our repository of information for the client, which also we are developing to allow to let it become a claims management system over the long run. And then we've got our own cartoon character named Skidmore Safely that we use for educational purposes. So he is the chief training officer of the company, and he is the lead in our 5-chapter video series on crash management. And it's aspirational goal for us to employ Skidmore in all manner of training.
Cool. Skidmore Safely. Love it.
Skidmore Safely.
That's fun. And all that, do you have, trademarks, patents? Like do you have any of that type of protection?
Patents we don't have. I wasted a lot of money on patents, more than I should have. Everything is automatically copyright. And now that we've got some time in here, we can work on establishing the trademarks, but we've worked hard. We've worked hard to get our intellectual property foothold into the marketplace so that we can establish ownership that way.
Yeah.
Hey guys, wanted to take a quick break from the show just to tell you about our companies for a second. I'm Patrick Dichter and I own Appletree Business Services. We do quality accounting and tax nationwide. So if you're running a business or looking to buy a business, we'd love to help you out with accounting and tax services. You can find us at appletreebusiness.com. And Clint, tell us about Bison Business.
Yeah, Bison Business is my firm. We do nationwide M&A. So we help people buy and sell companies. Most of our customers have companies in the 1 to 20 million revenue range, profitable businesses. So if you've got one and you're ready to get acquired, you can reach out to us at bisonbusiness.com for a complimentary valuation. We can get you to market and get you sold. If you're a listener that's a buyer that wants to buy a company that size, make sure you're on our email list because we'll send you out deals first before they hit the market anywhere else. But we'd love to serve you anytime you're thinking of acquiring or selling your business. We want to be your first stop at Bison Business.
Awesome. Now back to the show.
And you mind if I ask him, like, how much do you think you've invested over the past 9-10 years in this enterprise, like getting it all set up and going? Not counting just like your expenses on an ongoing basis, but I mean like your build out costs and
the original build out cost. We built all of this for less than $300,000.
Yeah, 300 invested ish, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of time working.
Don't tell me to count that time, because I don't want to do it. I'm not counting the blood. I'm not counting the sweat. I'm not counting. Well, I am.
Yeah,
I'm counting the blood and the sweat and the tears. Nobody else is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I know it matters. It matters to you.
It matters to me.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how to value this. It's a little bit outside the norm for me, Pat. From a financial standpoint, I always struggle. Anything under 100K net is, I think like it's, especially in software, it's going to be almost viewed as an opportunity for someone. It's going to come down to like who wants this and why, and what would they pay for it. I deal with typically a little bit larger transactions where people are leaving. I could see if you were a few times bigger than this, you could get somebody that's related to this industry that says, I want to jump in. I know this space. I know the people that manage fleets, and there's enough there that I could make a good living right out of the gate and still have some money left over to market this and build a sales force. But right now at the 126K net 50 or 126K of revenue, it's gotta be somebody, I think, like adding this into what they already do, like somebody that's, tell me your thoughts, Brendan, in terms of like, I'm sure you've began with the end in mind and thought about this along the way. Who's like the strategic buyer for this that would say this is going to be a perfect opportunity for us to save money or make extra money by incorporating this into our world?
When I mentioned that commercial auto insurance is losing 112%, it's the people who are losing that money that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten their attention. I've gotten the attention of at least one large broker in Iowa where my product is used, and it's getting used extensively in one of their insurance captives that specializes in petroleum distribution. The guys that fill up the tanks at the C-stores. And I'm getting a lot of attention and a lot of attraction there. And some of the members of this insurance captive are using it and some of them are not. And so right now I'm in discussions with them to compare the data between those of my clients and those who are not my clients. And what it's starting to show is that my clients are putting downward pressure on their claims costs. Mm-hmm. And so that's got their interest. And not only that, they want to expand their footprint in the commercial auto market, but at 112%, it doesn't make any sense to do that because it's hard to place those risks. Mm-hmm. So I've also developed relationships with a bunch of colleagues, a couple of colleagues, two in particular, and we have designed a risk management system that controls not just the post-accident risk, but the pre-crash prevention side of the risk. And that's getting attention as well. So to answer your question, I expect one of two entities to take an interest in Exit. That's either an existing technology company or an insurance company.
What was the one you said it integrates with earlier in the show?
Geotab.
And that's like their ERP of how they manage all the trucks.
Yeah, Geotab is what's called a telematics platform. Telematics referring to any vehicle to network communication. And what you may not know is that trucking is a highly regulated industry. And among the things that are regulated are hours of service. And there's a federal mandate for drivers to record their hours of service electronically, which means there has to be a device connected to the truck. And they're all running on mobile. So we integrated it with Geotab, and it's a single sign-on, single pane of glass experience. And not only that, but when a driver deploys AccidentPlan from Geotab, AccidentPlan also reaches out into the telematics software and pulls all of the driver data and engine control module data that it can, all of the dispatch, all the trips, all the things you need, and puts that into a separate file. So you're actually building your crash file at the same time.
Interesting. I mean, I can see Geotab buying you. I could see the captive buying you. I could see maybe a safety training company buying you. Maybe just a large trucking company buying it, and transparently, I've always thought of your business as one that's like a gem of like, it's such a big problem and you're coming at it from such an interesting angle that I feel like, you're a great target for a strategic acquisition, but it's hard to say whether they'll pay, I don't know, Clint, 200K or 500K or what it would be currently. Or
I want to address the elephant in the room on that, which is valuation. Our guests fill out a a pre-show questionnaire for us, and you put what you want for the business on that. Brendan, you mind if I share?
No, not at all.
Okay. So he put his value at 3 million, and when I look at it from a financial perspective of like what buyers I know, which are cash flow buyers trying to buy an income stream and grow it. A company this small, even though it is doing something cool and has a unique angle here, like I'm thinking that's a $100,000 to $200,000 deal, like something in that range.
Yeah,
And,
I don't care what you think, Clint.
yeah, no, I know my opinion doesn't matter because I'm not the one writing the check here.
Even the standard formula of 8x revenue is, over $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing that with my opinion on as someone who sells small businesses. That I don't think I could get a buyer to pay that. That's a cash flow seeking buyer.
And that's the key statement: cash flow seeking buyer.
Yeah, and so I think if you want to get that 7-figure valuation, whether it's $1 million or $3 million, it's going to have to be some strategic that sees the value in you or the technology and says, when we bolt this small business onto our big thing, we're going to see such an outsized return on that investment that's going to save us millions of dollars. It's going to make us millions of dollars. Then that's where you get that type of valuation. And so I'm not going to, technology is its own thing. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm right, you're wrong.
No, but you're accurate about the strategy. That is exactly the strategy. And I'm not pursuing anybody interested in a cash flow business because frankly, they could buy a convenience store and do better than this.
Right. And so, it just begs the question if you're 9-10 years in, like
3 million though, where's that come from? Is that just like, it seemed like a precise number. Is that like, this would make it worthwhile to like let go of my baby? Or is this like, this would allow me to retire? Or like where'd 3 come from?
It's all internal, Patrick. It's at least 50% emotional, if not more. But the calculation is with the people I have in it, and I've got 51%, to pay for all the blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I don't actually have to sell it. It's making money.
Yeah.
And I can grow it and I can increase that valuation. I've got a few good years of work left in me, and I could just keep running up the value. And so that's what I'm doing, is keep running up the value until it hits that 3 million mark for the entity that Clint just described.
Yeah. What if somebody comes to you and they say, hey, like, sell us 70% at like $1 million valuation right now. You stay on, and then in 3 to 5 years, we're going to try to sell this thing for 8 to 10 million. Like, is that compelling to you?
Yeah, as long as you're also paying for those 3 to 5 years in between, that is a significant figure.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who hears you talk,
the figures might not exactly be right, but the model is certainly worthwhile.
Yeah, anyone who hears you talk, you're clearly like subject matter expert. So I think that could be another scenario where you sell part of it, stay on, you're the face of it or the subject matter expert, and they, fund growth and then sell it that way.
I think a huge problem. And I've checked out your website, and Patrick knows you, and we know your stuff. And it feels like this should be much bigger. Like this, like when you see the numbers, it's like, man, you've been at this a while. There's a huge problem. Everybody knows the society we live in. And when anybody gets in a fender bender with a commercial vehicle, they think they just won the lottery all of a sudden.
And oftentimes they did.
Yeah. and how huge this industry is in insurance and how tough those loss rates are. Like you're sitting in a big opportunity here. And so
there's another side to that. And the side I'm working on there, Clint, is because of those numbers, we are responsible for most of them. We make it too easy for those numbers to go the way they're going. And
what do you mean by that?
I was having this discussion recently with the insurance company that I mentioned. In trucking is a very old business, been around since the Teamsters. So that's 200 years, something like that. And it doesn't change its mindset quickly. And the mindset in trucking is that's what I have insurance for. So if you think about risk management as a practice, with the metaphor being a three-legged stool, if I have risk being on the road, I have to take care of my own risk, which means one of those legs is risk mitigation. I have to do everything I can to limit and mitigate those risks that I take, making sure there's air in my tires, making sure my drivers are well-trained, making sure my trucks are in good shape. All of those elements are part of risk mitigation. What I can't mitigate, then I can transfer. That's the second leg of the stool. And so the third leg of the stool is any risk that I can't mitigate or transfer, we have to accept. And then that's where the transfer takes in. Any of those legs turn up short, stool falls over. In trucking, it is mandatory. Financial responsibility is mandatory to a minimum of $750,000. Risk mitigation is optional. No one is forced to mitigate their risk. And as a result, the cost of the risk keeps climbing higher and higher and higher. So until the motor carrier realizes that they're not putting enough mitigation effort in place, nothing will change.
Got it.
And so nothing changes until everything changes. And that's the period we're in right now. I'm riding that wave right now. It's been 10 years coming. So I saw it a little bit ahead of time, but that wave is really starting to break right now. And that's why it's a really exciting time for us. And that's why I can remain extra patient.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the past 10 years, it feels like, I guess, plaintiffs have been winning, right? Like it's been just pay them and make them go away versus how do we fundamentally fix this problem?
Because it is so easy. Because of the way the trucking system runs in the country. And we could spend a whole hour just on that alone. But trucking makes it so easy. It's such low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
For the plaintiffs.
If we could go spend like 40 to 60K a month to grow this, where would you spend it? Like product or marketing or going to conferences or like?
Let me reiterate that too for Patrick. It's like, that's the question I was trying to get to was like, why isn't this much bigger? What's holding you back? Is if it's capital, if you had capital, where, how would you unlock the growth here? So like, I do think, you've got to neat things and you've got a huge opportunity. And if you want to have that multi-million-dollar exit someday, we've got to figure out how to get you noticed and a lot bigger. And like, what is the path to growth and kind of proving this out in the marketplace in a much bigger way? Undercapitalization
is the struggle that I face. There's no doubt about it. And so, if we were to arrange a cash influx of any amount, Patrick, $50,000, $60,000 a month, whatever it would go towards two main areas. One is continuing to integrate with other platforms to create a holistic system, a holistic risk management system. We won't have to develop any new things, but we have to connect a lot of APIs and maintain them that way. So there's a service element that has to take place to manage that kind of growth. At this scale right now, with the number of users I have, it's not that much. But to penetrate that market, you've got to compete with the attention of everything else that's out there on the market. And so that's one way to do it, to start bringing these lots of different elements together for single pane of glass experience. The second one is, you'd call it marketing. I call it education. And the marketing opportunity here is that all commercial drivers need regular training. And it's one of the main shortcomings of the industry, because the training, all of the training material that exists on the marketplace today is locked up in about 3 pay-per-seat companies. My plan with that would be to create educational material and open it up free to everybody who would be willing to give up their contact information. That would generate interest, plus the rest of the marketing stuff, trade shows, whatnot. And of course, Patrick, 1 or 2 really good salespeople. By that, I mean people who are not like me.
You're right. So we'd spend money on dev to integrate with everything else. We'd spend money on content and education to like build a
sales and marketing.
brand.
That's it. Sales and marketing, sales and marketing, sales and marketing.
A couple salespeople.
And that I'd have to sit down and crunch the numbers. If somebody said, crunch those numbers, let's see what we can do. And I'll sit down and start crunching those numbers.
Yeah. So how do you think about the exit conversation, Brendan? Yeah, I'd love to ask, like, how long do you see yourself doing this? And do you mind sharing what your age is and what your like thoughts are on, like, do you want to be doing this in 10 years or?
Did I mention my age? I don't recall having done that.
I mentioned it. I mean, I mentioned I wanted to know it.
Okay. I'm 61 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty certain this is going to be my second to the last career prior to toy maker or used car dealer. I don't know which one I'm going to be after that, but I got 5, 6, 10 years. I don't know. I know I'm in pretty good shape, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, you know, if I were to get involved in an organization that wanted to take it on and pay me to run it, that would be very interesting to me. Those are the conversations I'm having with some organizations. I'm doing my best to keep them developed that way. And then continue to raise the value, so I'm continuing to build the equity in it, and then complete exit after that.
Mm-hmm.
After it's all up and running.
Yeah.
And with the right money, there's no reason we can't do this in 5 years. Easy.
Yeah. So it sounds like the time is now then for you to have some sort of either partnership or pivot to be able to unlock the potential here, you know, because it does feel like this is, you know, you have subject matter expertise. You've got over 2,000 drivers with this app on their phones, right?
Over 3.
Over 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just did a little back of the napkin.
Raised prices. Have you raised prices?
No. If the math doesn't work out, I don't know how.
That would tell a lot. If you send out notices like, hey, prices are going up 15%, you know? And like,
I think I counted up 3,000, but that doesn't mean everything's accurate. So
yeah, but I mean, I feel like it'd show a lot in terms of like the stickiness or the perceived value, you know?
Oh, I've got stickiness when you look at the start dates of a lot of these clients. My first client came on 10 years ago. They're still with us today.
That is awesome.
If you came to me 5-6 years from now and things have stayed the same and you've got sticky clients, but you're still doing the same numbers, and you said, Clint, I'm just tired at this point, got something else I want to do, just sell it, give me what you can. You wouldn't like my answer, right? Like I, and this is my bias because I sell cash flowing companies on multiples of earnings, and it would be too small for us to take on. And I would say, sorry, I'm not your guy, because I don't sell potential here. I'm not going to be able to, go around and pitch it for what it could be to others, and it just doesn't make sense for us to represent. And so we're typically we want to see $1 million and up in revenue and $250,000 and up in earnings to the bottom line, to be able to get a business of size that we can reliably deliver the results. And that's what I'm all about as a broker, is like, I want to be able to talk to you and say, yes, I absolutely know we can get this price, and that we've got 1,000 buyer candidates that would happily be in on this. And right now it's just, you're not there for that type of exit strategy. And so your paths are, you got to get in those relationships with those strategics that see the long-term picture of what you're doing here. And can you become a real money saver or profit saver or a thorn in their side, just something that gets their attention, that says, I need this guy, I need this tech, and I need him on my side. And I think you're always potentially just one or two big relationships away from breaking this thing wide open. Mm-hmm. And so what is that point of leverage that needs to happen? So you don't have to have that conversation 5 or 6 years from now saying things are still, pretty small, still flying under the radar here. Cause I would love to have a much different conversation 5 or 6 years from now with you after you have had that breakthrough.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. So if I understand your question, you're asking me what I need to do to.
Yeah. Cause it just feels like you're pretty far along in like the journey here, almost a decade in, and haven't got so significant traction, even though you're sitting in this big problem and a big opportunity. And so, I'm just hoping, for your sake and for the industry's sake, who's suffering from this big problem, like, that you're able to crack that nut and break through.
Well, the leverage, and we've kind of already touched on it, it's going to happen in one of two ways. It's either that organization that wants to take it on and employ it to solve the greater problem, or it's going to be a VC input that says, that Patrick mentioned, that $50,000 a month for some marketing and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I'm angling to option A, and I'm creating every opportunity with every relationship that I can. And especially exactly what you just said, Clint, 1 or 2 relationships away from cracking it open. And I can't get into details, but I'm feeling pretty damn close. If we have to have this conversation 5 years ago, I'll be a furniture maker by then.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you've got some deals cooking, and those relationships keep building. So
it's good, but it's the relationships that have mattered more than anything else in this journey.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, it's super fascinating just to think through, like, where the growth could come from, and it's neat just to see the different ways you're going about the problems you solve in this ecosystem for trucking. So
yeah, and I'd rather find those. I know those strategic partners are out there, and I'm turning them over. And I'd prefer not to swim with the sharks if I don't have to.
This has been great. Clint, do you have any other questions at this point, or anything else we didn't touch on?
No, I just think it's a fun conversation. I think you've been very very open, and I appreciate your candor. I think this is a great insight for. We have a lot of people that are aspiring to buy good companies from good owners out there that listen to this, Brendan, and people run into folks like you when they're poking around, because we have a lot of people that are hitting up business owners saying, "Hey, would you ever think about selling your business?" And I'd say if anybody bumps into Brendan right now, he's not ready. Like, it's just not, unless you own a large trucking logistics company or something around this industry where you need the technology and you need his expertise, then I think he's ready to talk a strategic partnership or a deal. But for the average buyer that's looking to take one down, 100% purchase, grow it from where it's at, like, you're going to be banging your head against the wall with this guy, because he's got a decade of his life in this thing. He's got more invested in it than I thought it was worth, like as the broker in this, and he sees the huge potential here. And so it's just like, you're not going to be able to pry this business out of his hands unless you're the right strategic fit right now. So I think it was cool to just kind of hear your opinion. I love that you said, yeah, it's 50% emotional right now. And I am, on the verge of these breakthroughs and things. And so you've been very honest. I appreciate that. You've been self-aware, and I'm just trying to give it to you from my perspective as a.
Trust me, Clint, you didn't hurt my feelings, and I appreciate your perspective as well, because it's the truth. It's what out there. People are looking for cash flow businesses. There's no shortage of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. This is not the model for a cash flow style exit. It is the model for someone who wants to come in and build something larger and more important.
Mm-hmm. You get a few key relationships right, Brennan, you could eventually be able to exit either way. Like, you could build a business that has great cash flow because your space has a phenomenal margins, and it's very sticky. This is a necessity thing for people when they get it, and they realize this is a small cost that can save us a huge loss. It's going to be almost like an insurance type of thing for them, except it's even less likely they'll cancel because it's such a small line item on the budget that protects against a big thing. And so, yeah, I'd love to see you have great cash flow and get to where you could have a financial buyer buy you or a strategic buyer buy you. But I think right now you're in the strategic only world, and I wish you the best, man. I think it's been a great conversation.
Well, thank you. Thank you both very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, this has been fun. So we'll link to this in the show notes. We'll link to your website. And then where's the best place for people to connect with you? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn's a great spot. Absolutely.
All right. We'll put that in the show notes. So Brendan, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.